So, friends, take a trip in time back with me to the year 2021. Murloc Holmes has an adorable companion named Watfin, and we all in the Hearthstone content community collectively lost our minds. And when I say we all, I mean me and Ben Hearthstone. And it has taken 5 long years, but finally we have Watfin on a card. I don't know if this is correct to run into Rogue, but I sure am going to, because he's my boy and he deserves a place in a deck.
Welcome to episode 558 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Wednesday, August 5th, 2026 in the evening. Coming to you from Nomergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From North Bend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, May, NY Kiwi, Spine, Grizzly Bear, and by our patrons of the week, Absicold and Swarmtides. You can go to patreon.com/coinconcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, bonus post-show content, early access to new episodes, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. And if you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. So, Life and Ladder. I was most of my Hearthstone was gonna be in the esports section. So, yeah, got to cast a tournament. Always great. Although, less diversity than I would typically prefer to see in a tournament, but it's always good seeing the best players, do their thing. In terms of actually what I've been playing, Raven suggested that he's really been enjoying sort of Handlock, so I played a bit of that. It is indeed fun. It's just like the closest thing we've had to a Herald Warlock, right? But it's just
yeah,
it's the 2-drop, it's the locations, it's Cho'Gall, maybe Dazzle, Traxi, and Deathwing, but it's mostly about playing the 3-mana taunt that puts the couple of 8/8 lifesteals into your deck, and then you play Annihilation on 8 and have this huge board swing. You're kind of tapping early game and closing your eyes and hoping that you're not dead, and then you
that's how I play every game, really.
No Rafam,
yeah,
right?
Closing my eyes and pretend I'm not dead.
So yeah, with no Rafam, it's very much feels like Handlocky, which is cool. And then I also had to play a bunch of the 2-bit Rogue for testing purposes for the MT, and was just like, you know what? I kind of hate having to adjust. I basically hated skipping turn 1 whenever you're on the play. So I decided to do the idea that I had kind of, berated Wicked about, which is I put Aya in. And honestly, I like it. It feels nice to always be able to just go coin 2 hero power or 2 rock. So, yeah.
I'm glad that my idea wasn't that crazy.
It was not that crazy.
Because a lot of my ideas are stupid. That one was less stupid than my average idea. So I'm glad that it worked out for you.
Yeah.
It's very great to feel vindicated.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, what about y'all?
I said I wasn't going to talk about this on the show, but I figure it's content. What the hell? I played a bunch of the Zee Shaman that we're going to talk about in Dexplanations, and you both can teach me what the hell I'm doing wrong, because I have not been winning with it. I've had a 40% win rate with it. And then I was on Reddit today, which was my first mistake. And I ran into this post, and the title of the post was "Tired of decks that generate huge boards of random minions? Well, too bad, here's another one. Introducing Preparation Mage, sporting a 60% win rate over 200 games." And the person came in and posted a screenshot at 575 legend with 200 games, and, you know, as they said, a 60% win rate. I'm like, fine, you know what? I am tired of the same 3 decks, and I will take anything that's a little bit different. So I tried it. And so the idea is that you're playing Code Violet, which is the prepare spell for mage, the 7-cost prepare spell for mage that says summon a random 8-drop. And if you cast 3 spells this turn, summon another one. So you're playing that. You're playing Tunneling Geomancer, which is the one with spell damage. You're playing Tricksy Improviser, which is the prepare spell, the 4-cost prepare minion that if you cast a spell before it, it summons a random secret. And then you have you have Jailbirds, and you have Spellweaver's Brilliance, which is the one that summons a 6/6 dragon that's discounted by however much damage you did with spells that turn, and the rest of it is just like cheap spells. You know, Cold Snap, First Flame, Sleet Storm, you got Skeleton Key to discover stuff. You got Winter Spring Whelp to give you another 1-cost spell. You got Violet Spellwing to give you another Arcane Missiles. You got Runed Orb, you know, Arcane Barrage, Arcane Flow, you know, the usual suspects. And the idea is that you just kind of pick things off for the first couple turns, where you set up like a Contraband Wands to get you a bunch of Arcane Missiles. You prepare the Code Violet on 4 or on 3 with coin so that it costs 2. And then you go into, or I guess 1 with the coin. And then you go into the following turn with 3 1-cost spells and a 2-cost or a 1-cost Code Violet. And then you have 8 drops faster than a rogue can get them out. And then theoretically you win, which would be a great plan if you had any way to guarantee that the Code Violet was in your hand, if you had enough draw to find the Code Violet, and if the Code Violet actually did anything, because some of the 8 drops are battle cries, which you forget when you're seeing the rogue playing them.
Yeah.
And they are super not fun when you're just summoning them. Or you just get a 1/12 taunt that can't actually do any damage. It just sits there and acts like a wall, which is decent for not dying, but not good to actually turn the game around and get past a deck that's going to scam you with their own big minions eventually. And I played a few games of that, and I realized that I was just playing 2 rogue if it was bad. And then I just decided to play 2 rogue, and then I went 4-1 with that before the show today. So you can play Temu 2 rogue, or you could just play 2 rogue, and I will just play 2 rogue is the lesson that I learned from today. So if you see that, I'm sure that it worked for them. I'm sure it is a fantastic deck for them. It is just 2 rogue at home as far as I'm concerned, and I'd rather just play the real thing until it gets eventually nerfed, whenever that happens, because I'm sure that it will, given what we're dealing with in the meta right now. But Megesa, how about you this week?
Well, I will say, listener, if you think you can do better, and you want to see the pitch from the person for whom it worked, the Reddit post link is in the show notes. So buyer beware on that. I have not I have not tried it myself yet. I have been seeing people playing off meta things in opponents a lot. I've seen more Azalina priests than I would have expected. By the way, I did not get 11x. I was like kind of on the edge, and then I tried to play to get myself safely in, and instead I just dropped. So not this month, which is fine for sure, but a bit disappointing when I was in 11x range for like 80% of the month. But such is how it is. I never really recovered from Soothsayer suddenly being bad. At first I had thought, well, it was bad before kind of, but it was good in my hands, and now it's like, no, it's just bad. Never mind. I mean, listener, if it's working for you, then like tell me your secret. I do want to hear. It might be a little better now that the DHs have mostly disappeared, at least play rate wise. We will get there. But I've been seeing people playing. I saw like 2 egg DKs today. It definitely seems like it can be powerful. If they get to, if you get to do the thing, which they did get to do the thing against me, it does seem like it's a little tricky to play maybe because you really have to figure out how you're setting up your Sawbones turns. But basically they have Sawbones and direct damage and the like deal 3 damage and refresh your hero power lifesteal thing and Soul Rest Ceremony and other ways to kill off the eggs. Soul Rest Ceremony, by the way, emergency surgery now with 4 3/1 lifesteals. You put it into something small and then you do Soul Rest Ceremony. which gives everything +1 rush, dies of end of turn. And then you just clear the rest of their board and heal up to full. That wrecked me as a shaman, I will say. Ah, yes, Wicked has found an Egg Death Knight.
Yeah, this is Method 4S that posted about it on August 2nd. And that was the most recent. It looks like there was an Asian player a few days earlier that had posted about it, but that's the most recent one that I saw posting about it this week, and that's, I believe, since the nerf. No, the nerf was on the 4th. This was before the nerf.
Yeah. So again, I don't know how good it is overall, but people are trying to play the slower decks, at least. I saw some control piece hard running 4 all time, which is pretty good against Zee Shaman. That can kill a lot of your board. I ran into Kibler twice when he was playing Pure Paladin, and both times I happened to draw like the nuts Zee Shaman early board.
There's a couple ways, honestly.
There are a couple ways to get the nuts Shaman early board for sure. Yeah, so I was able to just like steamroll him within 5 turns both times. But there were some lucky top decks involved in both cases, but also it is just a faster to the board deck most of the time than the Paladin. We'll talk much more about Zee Shaman. Zee Shaman kind of saved me because I was trying everything. The Hunter had kind of been working for me last week. The Hunter was not working for me this week. And even the Zee Shaman hadn't been working for me at first. Then I switched my list, and I've been doing pretty well with it the past couple days. Unfortunately, I made one change that I was excited to try out more, and then my power went out, and I didn't really have the data to play on the phone or like hotspot the computer. So luckily, the game that it went out on me on, I was losing anyway. So I don't think I got a lot. I was still playing because there was like a very unlikely out, but I was losing anyway, really. The Zee Shaman has been fun. Sometimes you just get it can have an explosive early game, and it can also have a good late game if you get the sort of Deathwing thing. I ended up switching to a deck with a lot of draw because I wanted to be able to consistently get to that late game. But there are a couple builds which we'll discuss. And then, note, listener, I will not be here next week because I will be out of town. I will be up in Oregon. We've decided that we're still going up, even though the wildfires have been pretty intense up there. We're going west of where the fires are, at least for now. But the air quality has been pretty poor. We're hoping that the winds kind of switch direction again. But it may be a fairly indoor trip. We are seeing relatives, so we'll still be able to do the like main things that we want. And we're driving. We're like going to bring our air purifier and just have it going in the car if we need it. We got extra filters. We're all set.
You just reenact every like post-apocalyptic movie and just bring gas masks with you up there and rebreathers.
Yeah, not quite that. If it's that bad, we won't go, or we'll we'll turn around. Because we are driving, we can leave early if necessary. So I think it'll be okay. Yeah. Overall, I was having a little bit less of a good time in Hearthstone when my win rate over the past 100 games was like 40% or less, but I've stabilized and finding the fun again. And, I do understand that this meta is too low on sort of control decks for a lot of people, and I totally get that, but I am finding my fun again with the more aggro style that I like, at least. So with an aggro deck that does have some late game, which I think is what the Zee Shaman is. Yeah. So was the DH, but I just wasn't as good at it.
Which is probably why I'm doing terribly with it, because it's an aggro deck, and that is famously not my forte. But Indeed. We will get there. But for now, we've already had weather, so let's start going into news.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so we have, as usual, alluded to it quite a bit, but we do have patch 36.2, which is the Battlegrounds patch. We talked about the Battlegrounds content last week. You can go back and listen to that, or you can go read through patch notes if you would like. We are not going to cover the Battlegrounds changes because they are many and numerous, and we are not qualified. So we are going to talk about everything else that is going on in the patch. And the headline that you probably already know, if you have been playing at all since the patch, is that Vicious Void Scale has gotten a nerf, as has been foretold by the social team on Twitter. And the specific nerf is that it went from Battle Cry and Death Rattle get a Void Soul to Death Rattle get a Void Soul. So that piece of it has gotten reverted. The weapon is still 3 durability, so that is still there. But getting rid of those early Void Souls is a big hit to the win rate of the deck, and it has declined in popularity accordingly. What hasn't happened is that there hasn't, at least as of Wednesday night when we're recording this, there hasn't really been a meaningful shift otherwise, because it wasn't just Demon Hunter that was keeping everything down. The Hunter and the Rogue are also pretty prevalent and also have kind of similarly overwhelming game plans that there haven't really been any ways to counter them yet. That may be, by the time you're hearing this, that may not be the case. Or somebody might have figured out another Demon Hunter build. I know I saw a couple people trying Fell Hunters again today, which is going to be an inconsistent game plan just because a number of the early Void Soul demons are death rattles and will pollute that pool. But it's something that people are certainly trying when they are trying it. But I have not seen nearly as many Void Soul Demon Hunters today as I did before the patch. I think that's a pretty common sentiment. And if we go and look at the meta, I'm sure that it will, since the patch, it has dropped to 3%. It was at like 22% at Legend for the last 7 days overall, and then for the patch, since the patch dropped, it is a 3% at Legend.
Well, and the win rate has gone below 50. The different stat sites are disagreeing on how much. Again, we don't have a ton of data as we're playing this. Oh, well, if I filter to last 1 day, yeah, it's much worse than it was before. It's like bottom of tier 2, tier 3, just not. And, so that people were playing it because it was the best deck in the game. It might be able to recover a little bit. I did see some people still like running Vipers and stuff against me, but that has mostly settled down as people realize that there's just not Demon Hunters, so you don't really need to run Vipers unless we get like a resurgence of Quest Mage or something. It does counter the Shaman weapon, but like I don't think you run Vipers for a one-of legendary weapon.
Or Kingslayers, I guess.
Yeah, but Kingslayers draws you stuff too. Like I don't think you run Vipers for those.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Hunter is the most like a secondary where you can really slow them down if they haven't shuffled anything yet and you destroy their weapon. We saw that a bunch in the tournament, but in general, yeah, it's the main thing was the Demon Hunters. So
yeah, and if they have shuffled something, you don't want to use the Viper. You're just going to trade it away, which I mean is still sort of card draw, but not the way you want to do it.
Well, it does make your deck smaller, kind of, but you pay a 1-mana tax every time you draw it, so that is significant. Yeah, no, I was surprised by how much that effect... Like, I knew that it would be an effect, but I was surprised by how much of an effect there was just from that one change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially with the weapon still being where it is, right? Like, that's... Because the weapon is still another 2 Void Souls, but just, like, not being able to get to 8 as consistently is, or even get to like 5 or 6 as early, right? Like it was the turns where you could spam like 4 Void Souls in a turn that would really be overwhelming, and it's harder to do that even with the weapon because the weapon's still only giving you 1 a turn. Like the Void scale was 2 Void Souls in 1, so that just gave you enough quantity to be able to spam them all at once and just build a big board out of nowhere, and it's a lot harder to do that if you're doing that incrementally. If you're just playing like 1 or 2 Void Souls in a turn, it's not as much as if you're playing like 4 of them. And being able to play 4 of them now is much harder just because of like how long it takes for you to get them out of the weapon, as opposed to just getting 2 of them right out of the body of the Void Scale.
And you even have to wait for the Void Scale to die.
Yeah.
Keeping it the Death Rattle does allow the deck to possibly pivot to a Fell Hunter plan, which if the meta slows down, I think partly like the meta has stayed fast. The meta slows down more, maybe the Fell Hunter thing comes back, but it also means that there's less tempo because you're not getting it immediately with the battle cry. You have to wait for it to die before you can get that Void Soul. I imagine that makes a difference as well. I sort of never really cracked the Void DH, so I was kind of glad that we didn't cover it, and now we probably won't unless it comes back up in the rankings. Because I just like, maybe I was getting too greedy with the Void Souls, or I was always not quite sure when to spam the Void Souls and when to try to get more of them. And now I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Problem solved.
One thing that I do want to note about this patch is, and this is something that they alluded to in the dev comment for this, they usually don't do balance changes at all in these big Battlegrounds patches. They're in between the standard content patch windows. They only do numbers only changes, or like small changes, like taking a word off here where they had battle cry. Small changes and as few as possible if they do any in these. So I know there was a lot of up in arms. Why didn't they also hit a bunch of other decks? That's why. And maybe it would be better if we also had a regular patch window here, but that's not how it has been set up for a long time, right? So they say, we'll continue monitoring the meta and evaluating whether further changes are needed during our next regularly scheduled balance window. But they had said they've been closely following the impact of the latest balance update, and it had become clear that Demon Hunter buffs overshot the mark. Our goal was to help the class reach a healthier power level ahead of the new support arriving in this patch, but it has since become one of the strongest performers and is having an outsized impact on the meta. As a result, they're making a small unscheduled adjustment. In particular, Vicious Void Scale proved to be a clear outlier, and they were reverting the buff to bring both the card and the class more in line with the rest of the meta. And they also, we'll get to this when we get to the events, but there's a new card from the event that could potentially go in Void Soul Demon Hunter, although I think it's a somewhat different build of it if that ends up happening. I haven't seen a lot of experimentation with that yet. So I could see if that was going to make the deck even better, they didn't want the deck to get even better with the release of this patch without doing some sort of change to it.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a patch that is intended to shake up the meta significantly. It is to fix a mistake effectively. I don't think that that's a controversial thing to say. I think that buffing it this hard was pretty much a mistake.
I mean, they basically said that too.
They basically said it, yeah. So they're trying to walk that back a little bit. That is not I would expect. We have a balance patch generally that's 10 to 14 days after the Battlegrounds patch. That's a regularly scheduled balance patch. And I would be shocked if there are not changes to Hunter and to Rogue.
And Shaman.
And Shaman too. I was saying half in jest, but now the more I think about it, the more serious I am, that I wouldn't hate seeing Jade Guardians go to 7 drops instead of 8 drops. Because that would we've talked at length about the 7 drops being widely variant, and actually it's probably not as bad if you're playing them as opposed to summoning them, but it would probably bring a lot of that down. There's a lot more unique effects in the 7 drops that aren't just as generically powerful as the 8 drops. That might be something. I don't know what the hell you do to Hunter at this point. You probably have to bump some things up to 2 mana to get them out of the Confront the Tol'vir pool.
I like Magesa's change of Earth and Roar to 2. Right, because that just feels. I know that doesn't hit the face hunter as much, and so maybe something else needs to be with it. But
Tame Pet, I think.
Sure, yeah, I would be for that Tame Pet and Earth and Roar, because they go through their entire deck so consistently, and Earth and Roar just makes Hunter into one of the best clearing decks, which is weird.
Yeah, well, what it means that the face hunter can be extremely aggressive, but then they have a burn plan, and if you try to build up a board to make their burn plan less effective, then they just confront the Tol'vir you, and then boop, no longer have a board.
Yeah.
And that's very frustrating because you can't do what you normally would do of just it's much harder to just stabilize against them. I have somewhat mixed feelings about it, even though I proposed it, because I think just because the deck is aggro doesn't mean that it shouldn't have some sort of plan B.
Yeah, but it's the contraband deck, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the reason I think Tame Pet is that, and I've probably said this like every week for the past month, but like it had to be one for when Companion Hunter was new and Companion Hunter needed it there to be played. Companion Hunter's old news. We can buff that. We can nerf that to 2 mana and it would be fine. And Companion Hunter would probably still play it, but you wouldn't see it in the Face Hunter. I think the other thing that I more tongue in cheek proposed, I don't remember if this was if this was in the post show or on the show, but tracking, Pepperidge Farm remembers that tracking used to remove the other 2 cards that you didn't choose from your deck. And I would love to see a new generation of Hearthstone players have to consider which cards were going to go away, especially because then when you confront the Tolvir, it also nukes 2 more cards out of your deck, one of which might be the other copy of Confront the Tolvir. And that would be a little bit more risk reward there, including tracking, that might make that a little bit more of an interesting thing. I do not think
There's no way in hell.
there is no way. Like I remember like years ago, before I was on this show, when I was doing Off Curve, I did a whole episode about why tracking was a good card, because it was generally like the sentiment at the time when it removed cards from your deck was that it was a bad card that you shouldn't run because you lose the other 2 cards. And I did a whole episode. That was literally, I mean, I've been on the show for 5 years. So that's like going back ages, but I don't think they would do that, but I think it would be interesting if they considered it anyway. That's just me being an old cranky, cranky grump.
They could put tracking to 2, and that would be a similar change to putting Tame Pet to 2. Arguably, that would be a harder hit, because tracking is a better card than Tame Pet if you're not playing Animal Companions. They could do that as well to reduce the draw from Confront the Tolvir, or just make Hunter drop tracking.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would want to do that to such a classic card, literally classic card, but
it can't be Confront the Tolvir to 6. That cannot be the change, because first of all, that would be hilarious. But also, like we have shown that, like I think the Hunters would pay 10 for this. Like I mean, I'm convinced that the Hunters would pay 10 for Confront the Tolvir, and they would be fine with it.
But
no, they would not. Yeah.
But I don't think that there's if we bump it up to 6, I think it may still see play. I don't think that's the answer. I think we need to start controlling for what is going into Confront the Tolvir rather than just nerfing it, or limit the number of spells it can play. Cap the number to like play 5 1-cost spells that you play this game. One or the other. If you're going to touch Confront the Tolvir again, and I can't imagine they will, but maybe they would. Like then cap the number and just say it's a set number instead of all of them.
And like, I'm not looking to make Confront unplayable, right? Like I like the card. I want it to be around. I just
it can't do everything.
I wouldn't mind if they found a way to like bring other stuff up, but yeah, it strikes me that looking over the course of the weekend, particularly where like you've got Briarspawn Drake in hand, and so each Earthen Roar is hitting 2 minions, and it's in Confront, and you just see these boards vanish. I'm like,
Yeah.
I
mean, I think that is the issue with the card, though, is that it's effectively a design constraint on the 1-cost cards that they can make for Hunter going forward for the next however long that this is in Standard, and Hunter gets a lot of 1-cost cards.
Yeah. So
that's a pretty significant constraint on them going forward if they don't change the way that it behaves or just make it a bigger cost. I mean, I don't think that eventually I'm being facetious when I say they would play it at 10. I don't think they would, but like I don't know that moving it to 6 neither really solves the problem either. It just puts more stuff in it. And they are going to have a serious problem with just not being able to print more cards at 1 cost, which is kind of Hunter's thing, which is the whole reason that Confront the Tolvir exists in the first place.
Right.
So, anyhow, I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about in 2 weeks when they do the next balance patch. But we have other things to discuss, so we should move on. So there is a new event, Zuramat's Rampage, and this does come with new cards. So it is worth paying attention to. Whether those new cards see play or not is a different discussion. Aside from the new cards, You'll also be able to get 4 Violet Hole packs, 2 Golden Violet Hole packs, and an Escape Artist Millhouse Hero skin for Mage. But the new cards, we alluded to Soul Immolation already, which is the new Demon Hunter card. It's a 3-mana shadow spell. Your hero power becomes Collapsing Star. If it already is, increase its damage by 1. And Collapsing Star is a 1-mana hero power that says deal 2 damage to a random enemy whenever you summon a demon. Refresh this. So theoretically, if you're spamming Void Souls, then you can use this also to deal 2 and then 3 and then maybe more. If you're discovering spells, you can get that higher. I remember when Shadow Form worked that way because I'm an old priest, cranky priest main, and that cost 2 mana. Anyway, I was targeted. It was probably better. But anyway, that's some extra damage you could squeeze out of that. We haven't really seen that make it its way into the list, but again, it's less than 48 hours since the patch went live. So there's still time for something like that to show up. Also, not everyone has necessarily earned those cards from the rewards track, so it may take a little bit longer for people to be able to brew with them.
And this is something I think it's maybe someone will come up with an OTK on this, but I don't think an OTK is very likely with this, especially because it hits their minions. It's not that much damage. I don't know.
So, not an OTK, but I will note that on HS Guru, someone has a deck called Raza DH.
Oh no!
Wherein you have Raging Fell Screamer, the next demon you play, costs 2 less. The deck is not full of demons. The deck is full of tradable cards. And your demon is Eridar Deceptor. Whenever you draw a card, summon a 1/1 demon with Rush. So it's just spend a mana to trade, spend a mana to hero power, spend a mana to trade, spend a mana to hero power.
That is a thing you can do. So, yeah, that doesn't need Void Souls. That just needs other stuff. So, like Megasa said, that's you're building around this very differently. But there are things you can do there. I mean, also, are they 1/1s with Rush?
They are.
Oh, so you can do that indefinitely. You're not just going to fill up your board. So yeah, maybe there's something.
I
there.
mean, if you filled up your board, that's already more shots than you have mana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, unless you have Enduring Roach, a thing I'm surprised it's not in their list.
It is.
Oh, is it in there?
Yeah.
It is 3 mana, 3/4 beast. After you use your hero power, refresh 2 mana crystals.
Yes.
Yep.
I thought that was a Death Knight card.
It's a Druid and Demon Hunter card.
Huh. Okay.
But,
well,
I mean,
good for them.
Guess how many tradables are in this deck?
Is this like oops all tradables? Is that what this is? Oh no, she's counting and she's going to double digits, it sounds like.
11.
That's not as high as I thought it was going to be honest. But that is a lot of tradables.
You've got Crystal Tender, which is the 2-mana 2/2 battle cry. Gain empty mana crystals until both players have the same mana. You've got Demolition Renovator, which I'm sure you're familiar with. You've got Rustrod Viper. You've got Big Game Hunter, and these are all 2-ofs. And you have Royal Librarian and Black Knight.
That's the odd one out. Wow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tech deck.
Tech deck. That is incredible.
Yeah. And then your opponent plays 1 Tortola and you just get so sad.
No.
So immediately sad.
You Black Knight it, or you Royal Librarian.
I guess you do. Well, if you have the mana to Black Knight it, I suppose, yeah.
I had been thinking more of like, if we end up with a slower Void Demon Hunter at some point, maybe not right away, that's using the Fell Hunters and doing a big pop-off turn with the demons, maybe with Trastath or something a little bit later. And then you have a big pop-off with this hero power helping you swing the board because you're clearing out their board while you're doing it and making it harder for them to respond to your swing turn. That's more the vision I had, but I love that someone is living their best life for this. Edel, you have to put that link in the show notes.
Yeah.
Or I will get comments asking me for it. So
yeah,
that is a thing that you can do. I was also hearing, so apparently Alteris in our Discord has been playing around with Quest Demon Hunter and having some success with it. Although he said that he would have been much more excited about this card if it costs 2 instead of 3, and was noting that you can't play the other. You can only play 1 in Quest Demon Hunter because you have to do 2 damage, not 3. Yeah. That was another off meta idea.
Yeah. Though I suppose, yes, cards would be better if they were better. So yeah, that is a thing. But we do have 2 more cards in this event that you can earn. One of them is a Shaman spell, Desperate Bribe, 3 mana, summon 2 2-cost minions for each player. Transform your minions into ones that cost 1 more. So that is something that you can do. It might make it into Mug Shaman, maybe, because it is a spell that summons minions. I haven't seen it. I'm just saying that could potentially make its way in there.
Yeah, Mug Shaman is by far the less popular shaman because it's not nearly as good as Zee Shaman, and I think also a lot of people got it out of their system when it was top dog. But it's still quite good. So, by the way, it's a very good deck. I'm not quite sure if they're playing Desperate Bribe. I've generated it as Zee Shaman, and I believe it does transform all your minions, not just your 2 costs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be a little that helps it be a little better. But it's not like Ascendants where when they where it becomes so sticky because when they die, you get the old ones back, right?
Yeah. Don't play this after Ascendants because you'll wipe out the Death Rattle. It
could help you build a board for Ascendants.
Yes. Before Ascendants, great. If they already have the Ascendants Death Rattles, don't do it. That's going to be bad. You're going to be sad.
Yeah. I'm going to see if I can quickly find out whether anyone is playing it in Mug Shaman. But in the meantime, we have the most adorable new card.
I have waited so long for this card. Because so friends, take a trip in time back with me to the year 2021 when Murder in Castle Nathria has been released. Murloc Holmes has an adorable companion named Watfin, and we all in the Hearthstone content community collectively lost our minds. And when I say we all, I mean me and Ben Hearthstone. And it has taken 5 long years, but finally we have Watfin on a card. And he is a 2 mana 3/2 beast. And he says, battle cry, discover a minion, pick the suspicious one to gain +1/+1. And what is suspicious, you may ask? Well, it's going to show you 3 minions, and one of them is going to be wrong. And you are going to have to pick that one. You don't have to pick that one. If you pick one of the other ones, you'll still get the minion. But if you pick the one that is suspicious, then it will get a buff. You're probably picking the better minion, not necessarily the suspicious one. But if there's 3 of them and they're all bad or they're all equally fine, then you probably pick the suspicious one to get the buff on it. But
I mean, +1/+1 is a pretty significant buff. Also, we've been told that the suspicious change will always favor the player. So, if the minion is supposed to have 2 attack, it might have 3 attack. It won't have 1 attack.
Yeah.
So, that will make the suspicious minion also, on average, a better pick. But I think it is something where to play it correctly, don't just automatically pick the suspicious one. Do make sure that there isn't another, right? If it's a suspicious doomsayer, maybe not.
Yeah. I don't know if this is correct to run into Rogue, but I sure am going to, because he's my boy and he deserves a place in a deck. So now I will add, you can go into the shop right now. We don't usually cover the shop anymore. I will make an exception for this because it's Watfin and he deserves it. You can go buy a signature version of Watfin in the shop for $25 or 2,500 runestones. I will say I am sorely tempted. I have not pulled the trigger on it yet, but I am sorely tempted because that is how much I love this little stupid frog. He is my sweet little boy, and I'm very excited to finally get him into the deck. So this was back when Hat wanted a Togwaggle hero portrait and still has not gotten one. This is I didn't realize I wanted this as bad until I got it, and now I love him and I would defend him to the death. So And if you kill an opponent's Watfin, you are a horrible person, and you should think about what you've done.
I understand that like merch is hard and plushies are harder, but we need a Watfin plush.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
They would sell like hotcakes. Like
We'll have to pitch it at BlizzCon while we're there,
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll have one at BlizzCon. Who knows?
Could be. I mean, if they had any foresight, they would.
Hopefully they'll at least be selling the King plushes there. But anyway. So that's an event that's going to be going on for, I believe, 3 weeks. August 4th to 25th. Sounds like 3 weeks. I'm not doing the math, but you can do that at home. I'll leave that as an exercise to the listener. Do get that. And if you want to, I did see, I have been on Reddit this week. I really should not be. I saw someone complaining that the signature Watfin was pay to win because you can buy the signature card ahead of the event. And it's like, I don't know if they're trolling or if they were serious, but either way,
they're
touch
not
grass
trolling
to that person.
The people who feel strongly about those kinds of things feel very strongly.
Anyway. Heroic Tavern Brawl's coming back next week, August 12th to 19th. The usual setup, 1,000 gold, battle until you get 12 wins or 3 losses. The rewards are largely the same. I haven't looked at like the last one, but those look roughly around the same numbers. Certainly 3 golden legendaries, 50 packs, 1,100 gold, 1,100 dust. As usual, our caveat, if you are doing this for the experience, you are doing it for the right reasons. If you are doing it for the rewards, you are doing it for the wrong reasons. There is a better way to spend your gold and spend your money. But if this is something where you are looking for the experience of trying your skills against an uncapped level of player who may be much better than you or much worse than you in a tournament-like experience, this is the event for you. If you are looking at the 50 packs and 1,100 dust, 1,100 gold, and 3 legendaries and thinking that is the way you are going to get it, unless if you need those things, you will probably not be getting them unless you are like gifted at the game and just started. But it is a fun event if you are looking to test your skill against people who are also interested in doing the same thing. So there are continuing to be offers in the Battle.net shop. One new enhancement they brought in with this patch is that you can click into the shop directly or the Battle.net shop directly from the in-game store, and then you will see that if you click the button in the web shop, you will see that show up in your account immediately without having to log out and log in again. So that is a big improvement. There is also a special deal for the Night Warrior Tyrande bundle, which I will just say I'm a priest main, and that is a portrait not even a priest main could love, but if you want it for completeness, you can go get it again. That's there.
I love Tyrande so much, and I want to love this portrait.
They did her dirty with this portrait is what happened. Yeah, for sure. Anyhow, there's some Dark Moon Fair stuff as usual. We're not interested in covering that, but you can go check that. If you are, just make sure that you know what you're spending before you spend it. The bug fixes and game improvements. There is a new version of Unity as part of this upgrade. I have not seen a known issues post for this patch. If you are seeing something weird in the graphics, that does sometimes happen with upgrades to Unity. So if you're seeing something weird and unexpected, that might be it. And I would search out the known issues. That'll probably take a couple weeks to settle out, and then it'll be fine. If you are thinking, hey, what kind of new things am I going to get from this upgrade to Unity? You're getting them still being able to develop the game because it's probably a required upgrade. So don't expect any new functionality or any new features or anything like that, but it's just something they have to do. As far as bug fixes in Hearthstone, there are not too many that are very notable for constructed. They fixed a bug where Shadow of Demise could be played after a non-spell was played, despite having no valid effect. So you could just play an empty Shadow of Demise, I suppose, which seems bad. So you can't do that anymore. They fixed a bug where Ascendants could allow a damaged time-twisted seer to grant permanent spell damage for the rest of the game. So time-twisted seer is the 1/3 dragon who gives you spell damage when it's damaged. Presumably, evolving it with the Ascendants would not remove the spell damage buff and would just keep it in perpetuity. So it no longer does that. And then fix a bug where secrets cast by the Origin Stone, which is, I believe, the mage quest reward, could be seen by opponents through the history bar. That's bad. They don't see that anymore. So that's good.
There had also been a bug where a game could be prevented from starting when a priest deck contained both Azalina and Medivh. And I will say I did run into Azalina priests playing Medivh in the past day. So that is a thing that you can do now.
That's not a bug. That's a feature.
The initial version of the patch notes stated that Jailhouse Mana Storm could no longer summon minions that cost more than 10, and a lot of people pointed out there's an achievement specifically for using Jailhouse Mana Storm to summon minions that cost more than 10. That was an incorrect note. He still can. You can still do that and hunt that achievement. I don't even quite know if you have to go into Wild for it.
I think if you have Ysera and 10 mana and somebody cult Neophytes a 10 mana spell, I think that's the way. It's cult Neophytes and you have like a Typhoon or something. I think you can make that happen. But you would have to have 11 mana and you would have to have a 10 mana spell in your hand and somebody would have to cult Neophyte you. You probably have to use the Innkeeper to make it happen, but it is a thing that you can make happen in Standard, I believe.
And I don't know that it counts toward the achievement if you do it not in a ranked game.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So yeah.
But that, I mean, I never achievement hunt, so I'm not even quite sure. But there's probably ways in Wild. Apparently Clark did it. You can go find that.
Of course.
I'm sure he did. That sounds like something he would do in his copious spare time. But we also had a tournament this weekend. And we should talk about that.
It's the grand tournament.
So we had the Hearthstone Summer Championship. In the top 8, we had Banterface, Gabby, Inkuro, Kwanwu, Skill Drain, Demo Shadow, Wind Brownie, Shonsu. There were more players than that, but those are who made it through. The decks. Well, you can guess what was in everyone's lineup, which is to say, there was a lot of Demon Hunter, like a lot. It was still very fun, but for a little bit in group stages, people were not banning the DH. That diminished as we got to top 8. The Demon Hunter was just you all have been playing ladder. It's pretty hard to take down, and so people who brought priest, a couple managed to get through. Gabby then was quickly eliminated from that top 8. The Soothsayer priest, just like it meant that you were leaving up the Demon Hunter apparently, and that did not bode well. But Inkuro and Demo Shadow looked phenomenal the whole time. Chonsu played his heart out and did end up taking 3rd over Banter, which is rough. Because Chonsu did not need to take 3rd over Banter. Chonsu was in anyway. So I believe that means that Me Smile ends up taking that spot in terms of points, and yeah, Banter got knocked out. Very good final between Inkuro and Demo Shadow. Inkuro, rough beats. It's how it goes sometimes, but you know they both played excellently the whole tournament. If you're wondering who Demo Shadow is, formerly went by the name Santamax, another rising youngin, right, is apparently like 14 years old. So pretty incredible to have now a Masters Tour championship victory under his belt. Yeah, we'd love to see them at Worlds. I don't know how that will work with the war, but we'll just have to see. And in Kuro, my heart goes out. He was the caster pick, and he did get very, very far. He was the caster pick for like half the casters. Blastoise says he's not actually 14. Certainly looks at. I don't know. I was told that he was 14.
Maybe he's 14 at heart.
I don't know.
He did look very young, but again, I'm also very old, so everyone looks very young to me. So that's not really a good.
Yeah,
judgment,
I mean, look,
anyway.
I was told by authority figures maybe they were screwing with me, but at any rate, he's quite young. And it was a good tournament. It didn't have the things that I look for in terms of excitement, in terms of out there deck picks. There was a bit of a quest mage, right? That Banter did quite well with, but and a few other people brought quest mage, but everyone had vipers because of the demon hunters. So that was an interesting element, was seeing how these vipers that were there for the demon hunters, but also people were banning demon hunter, but would line up into. We saw several quite relevant vipering hunters where they hadn't shuffled anything in yet, but had queued up the weapon, and then it got broken before it could draw anything. That could be quite impactful. And then otherwise, here and there. Yeah. I still don't recommend people play Warrior, but Jonsu, it was looking much less good by the end of the event. We were kind of crapping on it the whole weekend, despite it being banned twice and then won handily the first 2 times we did see it played. But then it kind of leveled out a bit as it took a couple losses.
Also, most people are not Chansu.
Yeah, I mean, Warptooth did get recruited out easier than I expected, right? Because it would be Mother Duck plus either location or weapon, basically. And there's still the threat, you can't leave them with too many minions. But of course, if it is recruited, it remains very, very strong. Yeah, good tournament. We've got our final folks for the World Championship. Hope they can all make it. That would be great to get to see them all. And yeah, should be very exciting. I now have this month wait between now and the World Championship at BlizzCon, where I'm just it simultaneously feels so near and so far, and I'm very excited and also nervous. But I believe we're going to play out the group stage in the days leading up to BlizzCon, and then it'll just be top 8 that happens
over 2 days
on stage. Yeah, so that's more time than we usually get for top 8.
They wouldn't do deciders and winners matches.
Maybe they would. I don't know. It feels to me as though either the leading up days are going to be much more chill than I expect, or the actual days on stage are going to be much more chill.
Yeah,
because it's a lot of time.
Because I'm trying to remember how it went in 2020. No, it wasn't 2023. We didn't have one. It was 2019 was the last time we had it. And I want to say that they did the first games, or the first game or 2 of groups off stage, off screen, and then just had all the winners and deciders to make sure. I mean, I would think that they would want to get everybody stage time, right? Because that would suck pretty bad to fly all the way out to California, especially from some of the other regions, and not get on stage even once because you got eliminated in groups off stage. But I'm not the one planning the event.
Yeah,
I will just say I think one of the reasons that we didn't see a lot of variety in this tournament, I think it's 2 things. One of which is we had another 4-deck format.
Yeah,
we talked about this with playoffs, where if you have a 1-deck format, then everybody bans it and you get a really wide open meta with people figuring out what the next best decks are. If you have a really wide open meta, then you end up consolidating to some different takes on it, and there's a couple different strategies you can go. When there's 4 good decks, you're going to see a lot of people just defaulting to the 4 good decks, and there's extra incentive to not go too far off, because this is the last opportunity for anybody to qualify for Worlds. So there's probably just a lot of disincentive for somebody to try like a wacky lineup and see if they can, beat everybody with it, because if they guess wrong, then they've just thrown away their last chance at Worlds, right? So it's probably a little bit more conservative on the lineup building, which leads to a pretty samey tournament meta like this, unfortunately. But that's just kind of the nature of where we're playing right now. That's going to lead to this.
Yeah. And like, I feel like some of the new things I'm seeing just on Aegis Guru right now, like, yes, there was that slight change to the DH, but I don't think that's everything that has like opened up space. I think it's like people have had more time, right? You two seeing the egg decays. I'm now seeing that there's a dragon hunter that method did quite well with, like hit rank 1. So people are still trying stuff, and hopefully over time that leads to more interesting decks. I mentioned earlier the warlock that Raven told me about. That seems quite fun. It's just like a herald handlock, basically.
I mean, I would like to try that. It's like I said, anything other than what I've been playing sounds good. So anything that's a little different would be a nice change of pace. But I guess if you're looking for a nice change of pace and you haven't played Zee Shaman yet, we're going to help you learn how to do that. And by we, I mean my co-host, because I have fallen on my face with it. But they're going to teach me how to play it, and then hopefully we'll teach you along the way.
All right, so Zee Shaman, anyone who's been playing, I think this is a deck that's been on the rise in terms of win rate and popularity. So you've probably seen it, but just in case anyone needs a refresher, Zee is the half of Mug Zee that activates when you have no spells in your deck. So we do have a weapon and a hero card in this deck, and the rest are minions. And the Zee hero power, every 5th minion that you play doubles its battle cry if it has one. If it doesn't have one, you just waste the charge. Every once in a while, you do have to do that, but that always feels bad. So part of the sort of puzzle of this deck that I enjoy is figuring out what are you going to double and how are you going to finagle your ordering so that you can double it. And a lot of the sort of early turns are figuring out, like, how do I get 4 minions played before the thing I want to double? And there is an indicator over your hero power for both you, and you can see your opponents as well, so you can see where they're at on that progression. If they're like waiting on, if there's 4 ticks and when it's full, the next one will have a double battle cry and it's like shaking. And we had this funny thing on the theory crafting where we totally just like kept not really looking at it and just wasting our 5th charge when we were trying to play Zee Shaman and theory crafting. And Deck Tech was literally in our chat being like, you do realize that it's right there. And we were like, you overestimate us.
Yeah.
We understand you tried.
I believe I told him that is somebody clearly put a lot of effort into that, and I'm not going to see that at all. But it looks like somebody put a lot of effort into an indicator that I'm going to completely just not even ignore, just not see.
So when you are playing this deck, you spend a lot of time looking at that indicator. It's almost like planning around overload. We don't really have overload in this deck unless you happen to generate some off of Witch's Apprentice, which is the 0/1 beast that adds a random shaman spell to your hand. But in a similar kind of way, you are playing around when is my doubled minion. I do want to point out, most of the time I have been finding I try to double the Herald cards almost always, one of the Heralds, especially Ultraxian, because Ultraxian will also double discount your Deathwing. So sometimes you can even play Ultraxian and Deathwing in the same turn on like 7 if you've really hit the nuts that game and curved things out nicely. I have done that and then won a few times today. Doesn't always happen that way. You can also double like the hijacked security bot, which is the prepare minion with Battlecry, give your other minions +1/+1. But I have found it generally worked out worse for me to tie myself into knots over that. If that was relatively easy for me to get, or if it was going to be a sort of big bloodlust. But if I'm putting all my eggs into the basket of I'm going to stick a board and then double this, that just like so often you get burned because they clear your board and now you've got a useless thing and maybe nothing else in your hand to play with it. Like if you've prepared it and then you can build your board and then you can play it on that turn, but then you have to lose the tempo to prepare it. So basically I'm often paying, like I'll prepare the hijack security bot for like a mana if I have a mana that I'm not using, and then I'll throw it down when I have it or if it's lethal. And sometimes I just pay 4 mana for it and it's fine.
It's also the only prepare card in the deck, so you basically put up a flashing neon sign to your opponent that says, I am going to buff this board if you don't clear it. So there's no real, unless you're playing it for the 4 mana, you can't really get the drop on your opponent by, oh, all of a sudden my board is too bigger, because you've told them that you're going to do that. And there's no element of surprise when you prepare it, which is a kind of a downside to it. It's still good when you can do it. But like if your thing is flashing that your next thing's going to be doubled and you're spending your entire turn preparing the security bot, they are going to clear your board, and then you're going to be sitting there with a 0 mana 3/3, and that's going to do literally nothing because it doesn't even buff itself.
Yeah, that is a thing to keep in mind also, that it does not buff itself. Now, check for lethal with it. Sometimes you have lethal in surprising ways. This is a deck where I have been finding I have occasionally missed a lethal because I've been trading all game, and I know that this is like a very surprising thing for Megasa to say. I don't mean like trading everything and never going face, because I am trying to beat my opponents down, especially like rogues. You don't really want them to get into the full swing of things. If you do face an egg DK or a priest or something, you are trying to beat them down. But early game, especially if you're facing something else pretty aggressive, which the meta is full of right now, or you're in the mirror, you've got to win the early board. A particularly effective thing is to protect either Galagio Goon or Maiev. So Galagio Goon is the 1 mana 1/3 that elemental. After you play a Battlecry minion, give it +1/+1. That is so snowbally. You do want to protect it in general, especially if you're facing something else with a board. Sometimes you put it out and you know that they're going to be able to clear it, or you're just being like, well, if they have the deal 3 damage spell from hand versus a rogue, for example, then they have it. If I just get some value off it, it's okay. But if you can get more value off it, in the early game specifically, every +1/+1 really matters. So with the Galagio Goon, I don't usually, sometimes if I'm going first, I will tempo it on 1, but not versus a rogue usually. I try to make sure that I'm going to get like one thing with it, and then if you have played it on 1 and now it's turn 2, try to play 2 1-drops instead of a 2-drop or something like that, right? Like really get those +1/+1s. If you have beaming sidekick, like keep beaming sidekick with Galagio Goon, because then you can buff the health of the Galagio Goon, or with Maiev. You can buff Maev's health, and then suddenly it's even harder for them to get rid of that really snowbally minion. I had a rogue today leave because I played Galagio Goon on 1, they cleared it. I played Maiev on 2, they cleared it. I played Galagio Goon again on 3 with then and then I played Witch's Apprentice, and then I played a doubled Skywall Sentinel, and they left.
Yeah. And I think it's worth pointing out that you can, like, if you're on the coin, you can play Galagio Goon on 1 against a rogue, because the 3 damage spell, they need to combo it, and it's hard for them to combo it early. If they're going to combo it early, they're going to use a prep, and if they're prepping out the 2 mana spell, then they're setting themselves back on Jade Guardians. So it's not the worst thing in the world to do. I mean, also, if you're on coin, then you can coin out another 1-drop beside it that will get buffed, and you'll still get some value out of it. But if you're doing that on the play, then they can just go coin combo, deal 3 damage, and then it's gone, and you lost it. So it's worth keeping in mind.
Part of why I had played it out when I was facing the rogue was that I knew I had a Maiev in hand too. So I was like, I'll bait out their removal, follow it with Maiev, and then I was insanely lucky to top deck the other Galagio Goon. You don't usually get all 3 of them in your opener, needless to say. But I will tempo it in the mirror if I'm going first, because there isn't a lot of damage, like direct damage in this deck that's all minions.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very hard for them to... I'm trying to think, like, is there any way that they could possibly clear a tempoed thing on 1? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so, because not having any spells completely limits your ability to affect the board early game, which is why this deck is so centered around first to board advantage, right? And snowballing, as you were saying, Galagio Goon or Warden Maiev. And it does utilize Maiev better than any other deck in standard, right? Because you have Witch's Apprentice and all these ones.
Yeah, you do. It's good to have all these cheap things. I was trying out the Raptor so Platasaur is in the version of the deck I have mostly played and had good success with. I have like a 60% win rate with it over about 30 games. It has a lot of draw. I think I had mentioned this at the top. It has the Curator, which draws a Beast Dragon and Murloc. And then you've got your only dragon is Altraxian. So that does mean that we've cut Carrier Whelp, which is otherwise a good card in the deck. But having consistency, this is really so that we have consistency with the late game. Because if you do get your board cleared, your backup plan is Deathwing. But if you aren't drawing your deck, you're probably not getting both Altraxian and Deathwing. So at least you can't tutor Deathwing, but at least the Curator can tutor you Altraxian and thin your deck a bit. And then the Murloc is Prize Vendor, which draws you stuff, and it draws your opponent stuff too, but you're playing very proactively. And again, we don't have a lot of draw is spells. We don't have spells, so we need minion draw. And then your beasts in the more popular version are Witch's Apprentice and Platasaur. Here's the thing. I am sure that Platasaur is correct.
Uh-huh.
But I hate it so much. Because I feel like if I wait and don't play it, then I'm making a misplay by not drawing through my deck and not playing a one cost minion, which is the thing we want to do. But then when I do play it early, and I played it with a doubled Battlecry because I was like out of cards in my hand. And it drew Alakir and Deathwing.
Yep, every time. It draws Alakir every single time when I play Platasaur. Without fail, it draws Alakir 100% of the time.
I understand that this is like, I'm not sure which bias this is, but the human bias of like the one bad thing happens and that's now what you think happens every time, even though it isn't. I understand that, but it is so tilting. So, listener, you should probably just play Platasaur. But I was trying out the Raptor because then when it's sticky with the plants. Or I used it earlier today with Divine Shield in a mirror because that just allowed it to trade a couple times. So, but it does cost 2. It's a beast for a Curator. That was kind of part of what I was thinking. It doesn't draw though, so I added in a Relentless Hog Driver, which is the 5 mana draw 2 cards if they're both minions gain charge. And it gained too much charge because right after that my power went out. So and not only my house's power, but like the entire neighborhood. So got a text from my mom who lives on the other side of the neighborhood. Like, is your power out? Yep.
I didn't think it was an electric motorcycle that he was riding, but maybe it was. I figured that was gas powered, but maybe it is electric powered.
Yeah, maybe he's just hiding it. You know, it's got a very gas powered aesthetic, but really he cares a lot about the environment. So
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, but yeah, so winning that early board, I kept Glacial Shard. I think those had originally been in there because of Demon Hunters, but they help you with the early board a little bit because you prevent them from trading by freezing it. Or late game, it can give you a little time. The rogue has a big 8-cost minion, but it doesn't have taunt or something. You freeze it to give you another turn to go face. So I've kept the Glacial Shards there. We have some of the lists we're running only Skywall Sentinel and Atraxian, but I guess not really. Envoy of the End is also important, right? We just really want our heralds, not only because Deathwing is our late game plan B, but also, and Alakir is also our late game plan B, but also because they're just more minions on the board that buff your board. Like mostly because there are more minions on the board that buff your board. There's not a ton of AoE in the format except for Rogue with Fan of Knives if they get Thalnos, or sometimes they like double Fan of Knives you, or if Hunter gets all of their like missiles. But the wider you are, the more resilient you are to that. I will say, don't just if you lose the early board, don't just concede immediately. I have had games where I was able to build up and retake board without having any very specifically swinging cards. That can be a place where you double the Witch's Apprentice just to like hopefully get a useful spell out of it. Like sometimes doubling the Witch's Apprentice is not a bad idea if you're going to need a kind of spell-like effect, especially if you don't have Herald to double. If you can get to Deathwing, that is an AoE, but sometimes if you're just careful about your trades and trying to there's a lot of make your board awkward and hard to remove.
Yeah. I really noticed when at one point I was like, if we're doubling battle cries, how much do we need Envoy of the End? Because I was on more of like the curator list because I was playing the one Zee Shaman list that was in the tournament, right? And it was something more like this curator list, but with neophytes. And I was like, what if I took out Envoy of the End for Slagclaw? Because Slagclaw, I see in some other lists, and it's still very, very good to play, even without the ridiculousness that was happening before. And yeah, just having more things that give you that kind of board in the box seems better. And you can't always, like, you want to still play the Skywall Sentinels early, so you kind of need to have the envoys as well.
Yeah, and if you do buff past 4, you just get 4/8s.
Right.
That
Which
give
is great.
+4/+4 to the things on the side, which is great.
And Alakir will give you 8 drops instead of 4 drops, which is also good.
Yes. Alakir is also your like emergency comeback in the late game, and can really be quite powerful. I did put on here a Slagclaw list from, at least it's been streamed by Nosferatu. I don't know if he made it or not, but he was the first streamed and the highest rank with it. That does run Slagclaw. It does also run Envoy of the End, and it runs Nightmare Lord Xavius, which does seem like a good thing to double. Maybe that's better than the Hog Driver, I'm not sure. With the Slagclaws, I think it is great if you can double it, and that does give you a little bit of clear of their board. But again, don't like turn up a really good like double Herald opportunity, or a better way to spend your mana, I guess. It is better to play on an empty board though than hijack security bot for sure.
Yeah, there's surprising amount of like depth just because 5 minions is enough that you do have to be careful about what you are doubling, and there's, because of the pacing, these weird instances where you're like, well, I'm gonna hold back this cheap stuff because I don't know exactly what I'm gonna need to double, and so I need to be able to like play a couple things in the same turn. Like often after the first few turns, if you're not using them to snowball, just hold on to the Witch's Apprentice to see like, okay, when am I going to need this? Because sometimes you're just not able to play double on a certain thing and you need to do it on something else, and so you want to hold back a couple of cheap things to advance the counter again to get back to doubling. And you don't want to be in a situation where it's like, well, I committed to doubling Slag Claw, but then I had to do something where I am no longer Kindred activated, right? And like you have nothing to do.
Yes, Slag Claw really. It also has like Carrier Whelps in a bit of a different list because we need to make sure that we can get the Kindred on Slag Claw. And yeah, you really have to, if you're planning to double Slag Claw, then you have to be extra careful when you're planning ahead because it needs to have the Kindred active and the double active, ideally.
And enough board space.
So it's very powerful, and you do really have to be thinking like, during your turn, what is my next turn, and the turn after? During their turn, what is my next turn? Obviously, things change, but yeah, that's great advice about like, if you've got something like a Galagio Goon or a Maiev out, many bodies is possible. Go for it. If you don't, you might want to play like a 2-drop instead of 2 1-drops. Unless you are setting up, unless it's like turn 4 and you're setting up so that you can exactly dump Slag Claw on 5. And the Witch's Apprentice is really good for weaving in that kind of situation. So don't just play it unless it's going to get buffed or you are counting what you want to double, or it's desperate and you need double spells. One thing that I kind of liked about playing the Murloc draw was that in a pinch, you can just double draw.
Yeah, that's true.
I have done that. Like, I ran out of gas. I'm just going to draw double. I think the Slag Claw list, because it has less draw, it doesn't get the Deathwing, Alakir, Ultraxian late game as consistently, but you don't necessarily need it because you have the Slag Claw plan.
If Slag Claw's a lot of damage, you don't necessarily need as much. You don't need the 5 damage a turn out of Deathwing as often if you're pinging your opponent for however much that is. It's a lot. So
this Nosferatu list has 1,000 games and a 60% win rate. So like, that's solid. The one that I put, I had changed slightly so it doesn't have a ton of data on it. But if I can find like a similar one, yeah, this one doesn't have any. But if I look at archetype decks and try to find the most popular list that looks similar to it, there's like one with 58.6% and almost 10,000 games. That's very, very close to the list that I put, except for it has Cult Neophytes, which I cut because Demon Hunters.
Uh-huh.
They're still good against Rogue.
It is still good against Rogue. There is some flexibility that can be a little bit of a it has a particularly good win rate against Rogue here. That can be a little bit, what are you facing? What do you prefer? Like, try out different things in those flex slots and see what clicks for you, what kind of feels good for you. I think I hit Legend for the first time playing, stopping my not only homebrew decks, but like bad homebrew decks. Like, they weren't like Edelweiss homebrew decks.
Uh-huh.
They were just like very bad. But I started playing good decks. I hit Legend, but I didn't hit 11x until I was like willing to be a little flexible with the deck lists sometimes, I think. Get some reps on with a standard list and then see what the deck feels like. What are you missing that you wish you had? What is getting stuck in your hand? What kind of matchups are you seeing? What other tech choices have people made? And then you can kind of see what fits for you in those last few flex spots. Like, do you want to have all the draw, or do you want to have the Slag Claw plan? Which one, honestly, like, which one's more fun for you? Because they're both very well performing decks. So it just depends on personal preference, really. Don't underestimate Holy Egg Bearer, by the way. Holy Egg Bearer is in all the lists. It draws you either Witch's Apprentice or Skywall Sentinel. Those are both very high value cards. So I will sometimes play the Holy Egg Bearer out kind of early to see which one I get, because that affects my plan for the early turns. If I get Witch's Apprentice, then that will help me get to my first doubled Battlecry faster and help me pick exactly which one I want. If I get Skywall Sentinel, great, that's the best thing to double in the early game. So I will sometimes play that, like coin that on two, see what I get if I don't have like a Maiev in hand. And then, or play it on two after I've played like a Galagiogun or something. And then hopefully, in that case, I'd be hoping to get Witch's Apprentice so I can dump it after and get the buff.
Also, as far as Galagiogun is concerned, remember that the second half of Firefly is not a battle cry and will not get buffed.
Yes.
That is a small thing. It's a small thing that's very easy to miss, and then you're looking at like, why is it a 1/2? Because it's not actually every minion in the deck gets buffed. Firefly doesn't get buffed, and Wailing Vapor does not get buffed. So do be aware of that when you're just mindlessly spamming out minions with Galagiogun on board. That some of them will not benefit, and you may want to hold them back for later. I mean, Wailing Vapor will probably get buffed anyway if you're playing Fireflies and Skywall Sentinels because they're elementals, and that'll buff its power. But it's not going to get buffed from the Galagiogun specifically.
I suppose that is a reason to run Cult Neophyte, or part of the other thing about the Raptors that I was trying out was it is a Battlecry minion. But yeah, I suppose Cult Neophyte against certain opponents, if you double the cost one more, you could like prevent a Hunter from playing their Confront the Tolvier. That's actually pretty effective against Hunter. If you're seeing a lot of Hunters, maybe that's a good plan. It's just terrible in the mirror. It's the only thing. There's a lot of mirrors.
You can test my theory that they would still play it at 6.
Another thing to note about the mirrors is that you can sometimes, like if you've got a high pressure opener and they go in on a Maiev, you can sometimes ignore it and just kill them. Right, like if you're setting up for the double stats of all your things, right, and you know that you'll be able to like efficiently clear, or if you're one of the versions with like a glacial shard or something, or like if you've got Tiny Pal, if you have Tiny Pal, you can destroy them because the stuff wakes up and then you freeze it, and then they're in the situation where they want to kill off their own Maiev so that they can play things that can actually taunt.
Yeah, that is a small thing that sometimes. Like, Maiev is very powerful, but pay attention to when you need to kill her off. Or, like, if you've gotten into a late game versus a rogue or something, and they have a bunch of big stuff, I had a game where I did kill her off because my board was big, but I needed to kill them before they had the turn. Or taunt right away. So, and I did also win a mirror versus somebody who had Maiev, and I didn't. Partly by just like, well, I'll just go face. In that situation, the trading is you are not going to win the trading battle, but all their stuff is waking up a turn late. So, and Tiny Pal does give you a little bit of an AoE, and it has the freeze, and it has taunt, which can be very helpful either for building a wide board or protecting your face. Battlecry minion is really like if you have like a hail, you have an empty hand, you don't have stuff to do. Maybe I'll get something good.
Yeah. Or you need to get something else doubled and you need one more minion to get there.
Yeah. So like there are times when you might want to do that, but it's not usually my first pick. Sometimes you have to think ahead on the like deal 1 damage. I'll pick that against Hunter sometimes preemptively. Otherwise, I mostly only pick it if I know that like it's when I'm first playing it, and this turn the 1 damage AoE is going to be helpful. But sometimes versus a Hunter, if I think they're going to like confront the Tolvier or something.
Also remember that 1 damage hits face.
Yes.
From the AoE, which can be the difference sometimes. Like I think one of my wins I did have because that 1 damage went face, and that was the difference.
That is a good point. I had a miss lethal. I was so mad at myself today. I had generated from Witch's Apprentice, I think, the Lava Storm, the 3 mana overload card that does 2 damage to the lowest health thing.
3 times.
And 3 times. I was forced a rogue. They had a board, but that was large. But they were at 6. and I realized slightly too late that they were the lowest health minion on the board, and it would have killed them. And I was like, no. I actually did win anyway, thanks to Deathwing. But I was like, now am I going to lose because I didn't realize that they're the lowest health thing? Did I learn nothing from playing Spell DH back in the day with Stheno? Man, that was a proper DH, man.
Yeah.
I know people hated that deck, and it did deserve to be nerfed, but I loved it.
Yeah, same. Another kind of weirdness thing that I think is easy to miss is that the freeze effect, while very powerful on Tiny Pow, it says to other. So if you attack face, you will not freeze face. So kind of for maximal freeze, you want sort of like 3 things: 2 minions and their face, so that you can like attack face and freeze the 2 minions, or attack a minion to kill it off and freeze the other things. Just a kind of weird note.
Yeah, and that can bite you if you're expecting to have a chance to freeze their face. If they're a hunter with a weapon up that has 1 charge left, you might want to freeze their face. But if you attack their face, you won't freeze it. So, have to keep that in mind. But it can make things more consistent, because you can attack what you don't want to freeze. And often what you do want to freeze is the minion. So face is usually where I go with that. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think there's, it's not just play the green card deck. I think this is a good example of how an aggressive deck can have depth. Is it has that what are we going to double? How are we going to play our minions in the right order? Think about, there's a lot of compressed decision making in the first few turns, is how Hat always described aggro. How many am I playing a 2-drop or 2 1-drops? Makes a big difference when you're counting how many minions you're playing. You want to try to get your doubled Skywall Sentinel as early as possible, but you don't want to box yourself into a corner. So if you have a bunch of 1-drops, you can go 1-drop on 1, 2 1-drops on 2, 1-drop, and then doubled Skywall Sentinel. Great. Otherwise, maybe you want to play the Holy Egg Bearer and try to get Witch's Apprentice. There's a lot of counting and planning ahead, especially in those early turns. Later turns, it tends to be a little easier to play all the minions you want in a turn and get the thing that you want to double. Note that once you play Deathwing, you cannot double Battle Cries anymore, because you replaced your hero power, and the Z effect was your hero power. That's usually fine because you have a hero power that says get 5 attack. Yeah. But if there was something you wanted to double, make sure that on the same turn that you play Death Knight, play that first before you play Death Knight. If you've reduced Death Knight with Ultraxian, probably don't wait on Death Knight just to double a Slideclaw or something. But keep it in mind. There might be a situation.
You might need the value from Alakir to get through a really grindy game before you Deathwing. That's the thing that sometimes can come up. But also remember that the minions from Alakir's Battlecry do cost 1. So if you're playing it on 8, you're not getting anything else other than the Alakir attack. Because that is something, it's very easy to think that those cost 0 because 0 and 1 are very close. But they actually do cost mana. And you're not going to play them if you're playing Alakir on curve, which you usually are, because if you're playing Alakir, it is probably close to the end of the game and you're trying to not die a lot of the time. But if you're going to need something coming out of Alakir to save you, it's not happening on 8, it's happening on 9.
Yeah. So that's, and I've had games that I lost because I was 1 turn shy on that. So you do have to keep that in mind. I also had a game that I won. I had a game that I won because I was like, darn, I cannot double my Alakir Battlecry. And I was very annoyed that it was going to be the 4th minion, not the 5th minion, but I had no other choice. I played it, and it gave me Fyrak. Double Fyrak is real good.
I did get to double fire rack once. I do recommend the experience. Yes.
Yeah, there's a few really nice things that you can double. But yeah, I mean, I think that'll about cover us for today. We'll have to wait and see how meta develops, see if maybe there's something new next week. I'll be curious if this Raza deck actually does anything, or if it's just hilarious. It is like challenging to execute. Not an iPad deck, certainly.
Yes, does seem like not an iPad deck.
But anyways, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at Concede.com, where you also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/Concede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.concede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.concede.com. Write into our email at concede@gmail.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at Concede. Subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/@Concede. And if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.concede.com. Quick shout out to the Sphinx, May, Child of Huron, and Meat Plow for subs during the show. Subs today. But yeah, Coin Concedes.
I will coin concede to Maureen because yesterday we celebrated 24 years of marriage.
Wow.
We have now
Wow.
been married longer than we have not been married, both of us, which is quite the thing, given that we were not actually children when we got married. I mean-
I was gonna say, we also recently crossed that threshold, but the numbers are smaller. I think next year's our 10-year anniversary. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that is it is quite the feat, but we had a nice steak dinner on Saturday night or Sunday night rather, and yep. And I'm still happy to be married to her, and we're still as happy as we were. So it'll be interesting next year when we have no children in the house and it's just us. That'll be a different adventure, but for right now, it's I mean, it'll still be great. Don't get me wrong. It's just going to be different.
Yeah.
So
Very
we'll
different.
have a lot more time to figure out what we're going to do with all of our time that we have not shuttling people around places.
To be clear, I say 10-year anniversary, like wedding anniversary. We were together for like a while before that. That's how we are still at the just past the together longer than not.
Oh yeah, we've been together far longer than not, because we were, but that.
Now you've been married longer than not.
Now we've been married longer than we
Okay,
haven't
yeah.
been.
So I'm a ways away from that. So
yeah.
Yeah. No, you were not 10 when you got married, listener. It's okay. Yeah, let's see. Well, coin concede to patron and community member Critter Pup, who just got an internship that he was really excited about. So, and I think like a couple of speaking gigs too. He's a college student, so pretty exciting. Let's see. I will also coin concede to my relatives in Oregon for helping host us, and to everyone in Oregon and Washington and everywhere else where there are wildfires. It's rough out there. As somebody in California, I definitely understand. I have been lucky enough not to have my neighborhood be directly affected. Hope that continues, but certainly the dread of having it there and the orange sky, I can relate to. So stay safe, everybody.
yeah, and I will coin concede first to you, Magesa, for editing while I was casting. It always takes a lot of the pressure off. And I will also coin concede to my daughter, who's turning 3 tomorrow, which is
Oh wow, that's
Wow.
crazy for me to think about.
that's almost unthinkable. Like the grief, like
She can get her first haircut.
oh
Wow. I was also coin concede to one of my best friends whose son just turned 1 a few days ago. I went to his first birthday party, which of course he was not super thrilled with. He was just like, why are there so many people here?
Yeah.
They put him down for a nap. I was actually a bit late, and he had already gone down for his nap. And then when he got up from his nap, he was sort of crawling up the stairs, but then stopped and was like, I don't know if I want to do this. There are so many people. And he had his grandmother like right behind him as he was crawling up the stairs. Like, don't worry, it was safe. But he's a very large baby also. Like, he is probably as big as Leah.
That's very possible. My daughter is quite small. But yeah, her party will be on in a few days. I got a Costco chocolate cake because she said she wanted chocolate. And, you know, all the cousins are coming. Like, she doesn't have friends. She has cousins, right? And like maybe one friend. It's just we have a lot of family in the area, so it's real nice.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had 0 cousins. It was very sad.
Well, my cousins were all like 10 or 15 years older than me, and none of my kids have cousins either. So, yeah, that's fun.
Oh, and I guess a final Concede to PBS for having like children's shows that like they're not. I think studies have shown they're like not as addictive as like your Coco Melons of the world, right? Like they're not trying to algorithm your child, and they have like good educational stuff, and I've been very impressed with both Daniel Tiger, which is like the animated replacement for Mr. Rogers.
Oh, wow, Daniel Tiger's still on the air. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know it existed. I don't remember it as a kid. I remember Mr. Rogers.
My kids were watching that when they were
Right.
when they were little, so that was almost 20 years ago. Yeah.
But there's also this one called Rosie's Rules, which has a special place in my heart because it is, a Latino dad with a mom from Wisconsin. My mom's from Wisconsin. And now I in this case, Rosie who's the main character, has an older sister who's from the mom's previous marriage. I didn't have that situation, but there's 3 kids. I was the youngest of 3. I don't know. There's just a lot of parallels that feel, I don't know, cozy.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I had a student, I might have said this, but I think probably on the post show, an AP English language student. Listener, you might be being, Magesa, I thought you taught math. Yeah, it's complicated. I teach at a weird school. I teach everything. It's okay. But for one of the assignments that we were supposed to do was like analyzing the rhetorical strategies in a documentary. And all the suggested documentaries were so depressing. We had already just been reading so much depressing stuff. And she was like, Magesa, please, can we not have a depressing documentary? And because I'm one teacher, one student, I was like, sure. And we landed on a documentary about Mr. Rogers, which was a little harder to write about because its message is it's not like clearly trying to pontificate at you, but it has a message. But it was just like very sweet to watch, very wholesome. So that was nice. And my mom was like, "Oh, you're watching that? I love Mr. Rogers." Being a child and adolescent psychiatrist who studied a lot of the same like child development experts who he worked with, she was like, "Mr. Rogers is the greatest." Anyway, that's my spiel.
Well, on that note, that'll do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and double your battle cries. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.